Good evening, residents of Everett, Washington. I'd like to call to order the Everett City Council meeting of September 11th, 2024. This is an extraordinary day, near and dear to my heart and many others. So I appreciate our mayor participating in a 9/11 speaking engagement tonight here in downtown. So due to this event and the timeliness of it, I'd like to ask her to give her comments right away.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you letting me juggle and come at the very beginning of the meeting. I'll be ducking out right after I make a few comments for that event. A few updates. We're working to develop our balanced proposed budget that is fiscally responsible and aligns with our goals as a community. As we've shared repeatedly, we're facing a $12.6 million budget deficit caused by the state's 1% cap on property tax levy increases. And this cap means revenue cannot keep pace with inflation, let alone the growth needed by a growing city like Everett. To balance the budget, we're making significant reductions, particularly workforce reductions, since staffing is our greatest general government expense. I really want to thank the council again for supporting the voluntary separation incentive program. We had a number of staff interested in this, and once those separations are finalized in about a month, we will know the exact number of employees who are voluntarily separating from the city. Any voluntary departure lessens the budgetary pressure and helps reduce the need for additional cuts. We do anticipate the greatest impact by this program to be felt by police administration and civilian staff, facilities, and the library, but every general fund department will be impacted. I've also confirmed a few layoffs, as well as other reductions, including reduction in work hours in several departments and mandatory furloughs within my office. We're taking a very strategic approach to these reductions to protect needed resources that allow us to provide very essential services and discontinue lines of work we know our residents benefit from, but we simply cannot afford. I've had the chance to meet with all of you on council recently and will continue to frequently check in with you in the coming weeks, and I really appreciate the collaboration as we work through the 2025 budget. I also want to just remind everyone that our staff are incredibly busy working through this challenging budget with a very short time frame, so please continue, and thank you for directing all your budget questions to me and Jennifer. In other news, this has been a big week for Boeing, with a contract under consideration by the machinist. Boeing is a very important partner of the city and plays a significant role in our cities and our entire region and state's economy. The past few years have been incredibly difficult for the company, but I very much believe in our local aerospace workforce and the great amount of pride and talent they have for the crucial work that they do. I respect the workers' right to strike, and I'm hopeful that a resolution reflecting the best interests of both the company and the workforce will be reached very soon. I also wanted to share that we just launched our Safe Streets for All action plan. Everett is one of 26 Puget Sound cities that received grant funding from PSRC, Puget Sound Regional Council, to create a roadway safety action plan. And this week, our team launched the action plan development process. We're calling our plan Vision Zero Everett to highlight our goal of preventing traffic accidents and preventing all serious injury and fatality accidents. This marks a major milestone in our commitment to making our streets safer for everyone, whether you're walking, biking, driving, or using public transportation. We're committed to making sure our efforts prioritize the areas of our communities that are most affected by traffic incidents, and we're counting on the community's input to make this plan successful. So to our residents, please check out everettwa.gov/Vision Zero Everett to learn more and sign up for project updates or get involved. And lastly, as President Schwab shared, today is the 23rd anniversary of September 11th terrorist attacks. Our world was changed forever in an instant. Nearly 3,000 lives were lost, and countless families were left to mourn parents, spouses, children, and other loved ones. Today, we honor all those we lost, including the brave first responders that stepped up and sacrificed so much in the wake of this tragedy. I know we all remain very grateful to all those who walked towards danger to protect us, our nation, and our way of life. So thank you very much. And again, my apologies for having to leave early. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mayor Franklin.
Exiting now.
Vice President Zerlingo.
Here.
Councilmember Vogely.
Here.
Councilmember Fossey.
Here.
Councilmember Toohey.
Excused.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Bader.
Here.
President Schwab.
Here. So at this time, I'd like to ask Councilmember Ryan to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, please stand if you are able.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to ask Councilmember Fosse to read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you. The City Council wishes to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Hobbes people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society.
Thank you. As far as the agenda tonight, I requested to remove item number 12. There was some more changes that need to be done. Instead of having a long discussion, I just presume to have a better copy for going forward in next week. So at this time, we'll look at the consent items 1 through 8.
Council President, the minutes.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Clerk, do I have a motion to pass the minutes from last session?
Councilmember Ryan moves approval of the minutes from September 4th, 2024.
Thank you for adding the date.
Second.
We got motion and a second. Is there a question? Okay, all right. Clerk, please take the roll.
Vice President Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse,
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
I think I need to abstain. I wasn't here. Never mind. I just watched it. Okay.
Councilmember Bader,
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes, okay, let's move on to public comments. Includes written comment acknowledgement. Under our rules, written comments shall be considered in the same manner as oral comments. The commenter must provide their name and city of residence. Written comments require this to be made part of the official council record. Good evening, Angie. Do we have any written comments?
Good evening, President Schwab. We do. We have one that we received from Patricia Qualls regarding Faith Family Village, and that was provided to council, legal, city clerk, and administration to be part of the record. And we do have one public commenter here.
Thank you.
So Roxanna, if you could please come to the podium. And the mic's on already, so please state your full name, city of residence, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak. And it's on already. You're okay, you can start.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. My name is Roxana Burrow-Jardy, and I live here in Everett. And I'd like to thank all of you for your support for Faith Food Bank and Faith Family Village. I'm the executive director, for those of you who don't know, of Faith Family Village, which is a registered DBA with the IRS, the state of Washington, the Department of Business Licensing, and FEMA. With no financial experience with federal, state, and city contracts, the city said Faith Family Village could not open until it found a fiscal sponsor to make sure construction and other costs were paid. The city of Everett pushed us to hire Interfaith Shelter. Faith Lutheran Interfaith and the city all entered contracts with Faith Family Village. Faith Family Village gave $125,000 to Interfaith to get started on the work. Faith Family Village opened in January 2024. Although the learning curve for the village was tough, The 3-person staff worked hard with Jim Dean to move things forward. Almost 7 weeks ago, Lindsay Gagnon replaced Jim as executive director when he retired. The second week of being in this position, she ordered me to give interfaith staff admin access to my Faith Family Village Facebook page. She said this page belongs to Interfaith. I refused to allow that access. 2 days later, she told me and my coworker that we had to clean out what she says is an overabundance of donations. I told her that the donations, including office furniture, towels, kids' clothing, shoes, kitchen supplies, food, and more, were all from donors or purchases from Faith Family Village. She told me all of these donations now belong to Interfaith. She created a hostile work environment by telling a coworker to take stuff to Value Village, while I told him that he could not throw stuff away. She told other Interfaith employees to come get all the donations that they wanted because the village now belonged to her. After trying to work this situation out on my own, I asked the city's help to resolve this. They scheduled a meeting for Friday with Faith Lutheran and Interfaith, but now not allowing Faith Family Village to attend. I have asked to be included many times, but there was no response. This is only one of the issues. The day Lindsay fired me as program director, she told the resident skills coordinator he could move someone into the village and get the background check 2 days later on Monday. There have been many instances since she started of families who moved in who were inappropriate for the village. So far, not one single family has been placed from Faith Family Village into an apartment. Not one family in almost 9 months. I would be happy to discuss all of these issues and more in private with city staff, but it appears that city staff doesn't want to discuss anything with Faith Family Village. So I'm here today asking if you can intervene on my behalf. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and that concludes our public comments.
Council President Schwab, would you mind if I just shared a couple comments?
Sure.
The work that Faith Family Village does is a really important project for the city. It fills a great need in our community. City's glad to be working with Interfaith, the managing agency, the Faith Lutheran Church, the property owner, and Roxana's Faith Food Bank to implement that project. Community development team are continuing to work to understand the concerns that Roxana shared by email the last day or so, as well as perspectives from Interfaith and Faith Lutheran Church. So her service is really important, and I think folks were busy, focused on this all day, fitting in with other tasks. So I expect that community development team will continue to follow up on it, and I'm glad to bring back information too.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to council comments and liaison reports. Councilmember Zarlingo.
Well, just one thing, the county and cities are working together on what they call a land conservation strategy. I believe it's planned for adoption next year. There was a large meeting yesterday of many of the interested parties, experts, decision makers, and I attended for Everett. They've been careful to call it a conservation strategy and not a preservation strategy, though preservation is sometimes the approach that is taken, but the cities and the county, as we all know, are growing pretty rapidly and are going to need to accommodate the growth in the best way we can. So that's conservation, which is sometimes preservation, but sometimes other things. There were breakout sessions for more detailed discussions of the situation, the opportunities, and especially the challenges we face. Just the general message here, the top among those challenges are the increasing value of land, making it more expensive in terms of preservation, and increasingly limited funding for approaches such as acquisition. So that's all that's going on, a lot of competing priorities, a lot of challenges that way. But there were also some really productive sharing of successful practices that different entities have used that can work within the money and the land limits that we have, and I'll look forward to bringing more information back on that as this land conservation strategy evolves. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you. Thank you, Roxana, for bringing this to our attention. I did receive an email, so I had an idea that there were some things going on. And I do hope that Roxana and her business can be a part of the conversations moving forward. I'm sure that she will be. And I brought this today. Show and tell. This is the September 12th, 2001 Seattle Times newspaper. And for all of those people who weren't born or just don't remember it happening, that's one vivid photo of the attacks that happened on American soil. And it was devastating. It still is. People died, and I hope, but I'm not sure that we have, learned from that time. You know, why would people want to do that to our nation? And while we mourn the loss of so many people in our country, we also need to think about why somebody would want to do that. So I'm just putting that out there. I was there, not there. I was here in Bremerton. I know we all have stories because we're all that age that we were around in 2001. So just take some time to contemplate community and human rights and the many countries in the world that look exactly like this right now, and how we can better serve ourselves and others and not be afraid of them. And I also was supposed to go an entirely different venue to the, what's it called again? Because now I've lost my frame of reference. Safe Streets for All, which I've known a whole lot about, and I was going to go to that meeting. I had it on my calendar, and then I opened up my computer, and I was 7 hours late. So I am publicly apologizing for not going to that. I really wanted to be there. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fosse.
So I did get to attend the Safe Streets for All Action Plan workshop and have faith that there will be more. You can get your chance again. It was very informative regarding, I know we've been trying to have efforts towards speed reduction on our streets. And so I have faith that that will be coming to ensure that we're making sure that our pedestrians are safe and our bicyclists are safe and reducing those injuries is a big responsibility for us. So it was interesting going over some of that data, and more information is going to be coming, but we got good people working on it. So that was really interesting. I also got to attend the Helping Hands ribbon cutting project that they had to celebrate the grand opening of their newly renovated outpatient behavioral health clinic, which is a much needed service in our city. And that was a very heartwarming ceremony and experience to hear from people with lived experience that have benefited from the service in the clinic. And lastly, I want to say that I appreciate the mayor speaking to address the situation going on with Boeing and what's happening right now. And she had mentioned something along the lines that Boeing plays a great role in our economy and community, and I just want to make sure that our community listening understands explicitly that workers do as well. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Great, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Roxana, for coming tonight to share your truth and share what's going on with Faith Family Village. And I would certainly expect that as one of the primary stakeholders for the success of Faith Family Village and the people that it serves, that you would be at the table for these types of discussions. So please continue to keep us updated. I'd be happy to chat more offline as well. So thank you for bringing this to our attention. This last week, the Port Garter Neighborhood Association meeting was canceled on Monday because they do not have a place to meet. So if anybody can think of places in the Port Garter neighborhood that would be willing to open their doors once a month for a very lovely, respectful group of people to have a neighborhood meeting, please feel free to reach out to me or to the neighborhood chair, Andrea Tucker, to make suggestions. So thank you. And then yesterday, I briefly attended the Cultural Arts Commission meeting. Councilmember Tui asked me to fill in to be the liaison, so popped in with the group. I had been the liaison last year, so it was great to see folks again and provide a quick update. And then I just wanted to give a reminder to folks about, with school starting, and I guess in the spirit of Vision Zero, to please slow down when you're near schools. Little kids are walking and biking, and I guess big kids too at our high schools and whatnot. And also a reminder too that the American Academy of Pediatrics, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the Centers for Disease Control all recommend that children under the age of 13 ride in the back seat. So I think that's really important for parents to remember that even if it's a short drop off to school, for safe reasons, children should be in the back seat of a vehicle. And also in this, the spirit of the traffic and schools and whatnot, Councilmember Tui and I had requested a couple of years ago for some information about ways that the city can continue the sidewalk on Federal between Charles Street and Edwards across the street from Jackson Elementary. And the school is going through construction right now. There's construction vehicles tearing up the road, and it's a prime time to make traffic improvements for the area. And I've been asking and requesting updates on if that's in the works or not. So I'd like to request from the dais to get an update on that to make sure that we are taking care of pedestrian bike infrastructure, especially when it's prime time for folks to do that. Additionally, thank you to the mayor for her comments about personnel this evening, and I would like to respectfully request a list of, I'm sad to hear that there were layoffs in addition to the voluntary separations, and would request that council gets a list of the layoffs and the other reductions that she had mentioned about furloughs and whatnot, just so that we can have that. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bader.
Thanks, Council President. Last week, attended the Puget Sound Regional Council Growth Management Committee. Two kind of informational items. One was talking about the coordination between Snohomish County and the Tulalip tribes. Very interesting. Sounds like a really great coordination, but obviously still different interests. So but overall, very interesting to hear how that went. And in light of, I remember my earlier time on the council when we were working with the Tulalip tribe to extend the water, or connect the water line from Everett to them, and great experience working with them, I know, and successful project. And then they also updated us kind of in the wake of the Linwood link opening of the transit-oriented development and how that was rolling forward and further into Snohomish County and the planning that would happen for the extension of Link. And I know our staff is working hard on that and actively involved with the with that planning and transit-oriented development as well. So that was a good thing. And obviously in recognition of 9/11 as well. I know my time here on the council earlier, it was one of the greatest most sobering but greatest privileges to be able to hold the flag that was hoisted over the World Trade Center site when it, as many of you know, made its way to Everett kind of somewhat mysteriously, and then was turned into one of our fire stations before it was handed over to the 9/11 memorial site. It came to us at council, and it was just a very sobering thing, but probably the greatest privilege of my service on city council to be able to hold that important relic and reminder of what happened 23 years ago on this day. So, anyway, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the comments and remembrance of this day. Interesting fact, almost 3,000 people died that day. Since then, it's been over 2,000 rescue and recovery workers that have died from the 911 illness. So the devastation and legacy of those deaths continue as we speak. Okay, do we have administrative update this evening?
Yes. Just a quick review of some information about tonight's budget agenda item and budget calendar for the next few weeks. So tonight you have a briefing and the first reading of budget amendment number 2, which would amend your 2024 budget. Cities have the right to amend budgets at any point during the year, and our city usually does 3 of these annually. They're done to reflect changes in economic conditions, new grants, new programs, just really anything that was unforeseen, both back in August and September of 2023 when the 2024 budget was first drafted, as well as through your October, November 2023 budget hearings. Many, though not all, of the items you'll hear about, you'll remember from prior council action to approve spending. And again, just the 2024 budget amendment process is a routine process, something the city does every year. As a preview of the next few meetings ahead of us, next week on the 18th, your 5 p.m. workshop will focus on your 2025 budget priorities, guidance for the mayor and administration as they get down to the wire in developing the 25 budget. The regular meeting will have the second reading of tonight's budget amendment. A week after that, on the 25th at 5 p.m., staff will present an update on the budget balancing measures that are under consideration. The regular meeting would have the third reading and action on that 24 budget amendment number 2. At the October 2nd regular meeting, staff will present 2025 revenue estimates, including a public hearing on that topic. On October 23rd, that's when we begin rolling into the mayor's budget message, the budget book delivery to the council and the public the next day, and then a series of meetings focused on the 2025 budget. And then I've noted requests, particularly Councilmember Ryan, for follow-up for a future meeting. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And now to our city attorney, David Hall.
No report and no executive session.
Okay, now on to our consent items, 1 through 8. Clerk, please take the roll.
Need a motion?
Oh, do I need a motion?
I'll move.
I just want to get these things through.
I'll move the consent.
Yeah, all right, it's a tough day. Sure, why not? I've tried to break the rules several times today, so, yeah.
I don't want to change anything up on here, but when there is a call for bids, is there a way to have not just a cover sheet included in our packet, but the actual, information of what that looks like?
Some sort of breakdown perhaps, or,
Do you mean like just a further project description, or?
What do you put in the call for bid for these particular projects?
Yeah, I can see what that could look like. I don't know if they've developed the call before they get authorization to do the call,
Okay,
so there might not be more,
okay.
but, yeah, I mean, I think the main mission of the call for bids is to ensure that you want us to complete the project, so to take the action to move forward.
Is there another action where we get to see that language?
You award the bid, so you take an action to award the bid.
But that's after they've already, say,
That's before they, that'd be like, you guys, one, go out and do the project, so you get that point where you learn more about it, but I can look at it, or work with staff that know more about it.
okay. It's just more of like the process timeline. It's like if we approve that's the bid that they've already, the stipulations and the requirements and all those types of things is something that's already been kind of agreed to, and that it comes to us just for like rubber stamping and approvaling. So right now all we get is kind of like a cover sheet that doesn't really say what the details of any of it. If there is a way to kind of have that included in our packet, I'd be interested in seeing more than just a cover sheet.
Okay.
That's all. Thanks.
Okay, good. We've answered the questions, which is great, and we do have a motion and a second.
Who's the motion?
Oh, who's the motion? Okay. Councilmember Bader, and we have a second from Councilmember Ryan. We're
All
good to go now.
Awesome.
All right.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Okay, now to action item number 9, Council Bill 2408-20, third and final reading. Adopt an ordinance closing a special improvement project entitled Larimer Barn Demolition, Fund 354, Program 097, and establish ordinance number 405-24.
Councilmember Ryan moves approval of Council Bill 2408-20.
Seconded.
Okay, motion and second has been made. Is there any questions or comments from council? Okay, clerk, please take the roll.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Okay, now we're on to item number 10, Council Bill 2408-21, third and final reading, adopt an ordinance closing a special improvement project entitled Phil Johnson Ball Fields Playground Renovation, Fund 354, Program 089, as established by ordinance number 3968-23.
Councilmember Ryan moves approval of Council Bill 2408-21.
Okay.
Vogely seconds.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, clerk, please take the roll.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Okay, moving on to action item number 11. Council Bill 2408-22, third and final reading, adopt an ordinance setting the meeting time schedule for City Council's regular scheduled meetings and repealing ordinance number 3935-23.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Ryan.
With procedurally, a procedure question first, with item number 12 moving to next week, did we want to postpone this to next week as well? Or does it matter?
It's certainly an option.
Council President, I'm happy to withdraw my second if the maker of the motion wants to withdraw its first, if that's appropriate for postponing it till next week.
Is there a reason, or is there a linkage here that, yeah.
Well, we did have the wording for item number 12 with the procedures and resolution, but we wanted to, there was some more last minute changes that were discovered that needed to be made. So we thought it'd be best to do some more work on that before that item came. Whether we adopt number 11 now or later, I don't see any, I don't think it makes much difference. Councilmember Fosse.
I feel satisfied with the anticipation that we'll get it all done next week, and then it wouldn't even apply next week, right? Because when does that would actually go into effect?
Well, the intent currently is October 30th.
Okay, so we have, yeah, I mean, like, I feel comfortable as somebody who's had a lot of questions about it, of moving forward with this and then moving forward with the edited version of the procedures next week, if anyone cares, I think. But I'm okay with it, so.
Okay. Councilor
And I guess
President,
there's a slight preference, I think, to move forward with this, just so that all the other organizations that we interact with, like Snohomish County tomorrow, know our changes in this timing was, because this timing change was what changed their schedule as well. So in essence, if there's no reason not to, then giving them and our community a little more warning about it, the maximum warning of this then is probably a little bit of a benefit. So on balance, I guess I'll stay with the recommendation to go with it if there's no other reasons not to, and then we'll handle the other ones separately.
I'm comfortable moving forward tonight, just
Okay.
wanted to make sure we're doing it correct. So
Thank
now,
you.
so after my procedures question, now I have a content question. So one of the things I had brought up before was concerns about how changing the meeting time would affect our council committee schedule. And so, hearing no proposals, I came up with my own. So I was thinking about how we'll have essentially 3 evening meetings, which leaves room for 3 evenings where there will be council committees. So I would propose that we have our Health and Human Services Committee, our Built Environment Committee, Parks and Quality of Life, and Safe Community that have been taking up the 1st through 4th Wednesday for committee meetings, and then our budget meeting meets ad hoc. I would propose that we suspend council committee meetings through the end of the year, since budget is our #1 priority and it's all hands on deck. So suspending it until the end of the year, and then starting in January, we would combine our Health and Human Services Committee with our Safe Community Committee, and then also combine our Built Environment Committee with our Parks and Quality of Life Committee, since they both kind of have subject matters about things that are built and physical. And then that 3rd Wednesday would be a standing budget committee, which is in line with the recommendation from Mike as well. So that would be my suggestion. I don't think we need to vote on it right now or anything, but I just wanted to get the ball rolling, because I think the committees are working really well, and I don't think we should let them die on the vine at any time soon, but it does seem like there needs to be some reorganization to make sure that they keep moving forward.
great, well, thank you, and can you, love to see that in a scribbled pad or an email or something at some point, be good, thank you.
Sure.
Any more discussion on item number 11? Councilmember Vogely.
I just concur with Councilmember Ryan's synopsis of moving forward.
Okay. Okay, any other comments or questions? And as a chair, we will work very quickly on coming up with the committee proposals. Thank you for your feedback. I think we're all pretty much on the same page, so thank you. Okay,
Council President Schwab, am I missing the effective date of October 30th? I know we've talked about it, but do you want to agree that that's the intent of this passing the resolution?
do I want to? I would love to, but I think.
Your motion makers
I
wanna
don't.
agree.
I don't hear anything at this point that's contra. We should be able to come up with a proposed language next Wednesday for next meeting.
Oh, okay. I heard some voices that were cool with voting for it tonight, so I thought maybe you were moving forward, but if you're delaying,
Well,
that's totally fine.
The ordinance, is it also the 30th? No, it's now.
Yeah,
But
he-
as far as procedures, the intent was to make them active October 30th after the budget meetings.
Okay, maybe
budget
just to
proposals.
clarify, Councilmember Bader said he would pull his second on the ordinance, but maybe change his mind, I don't know.
If the maker had decided to pull the motion, but since he did not, then my second stands.
So your motion to approve the ordinance that sets the 4th and 5th when occurring
With the
12:30 p.m.
intent,
meetings is still
with the
on
intent October
table.
30th is when we begin.
Great.
The effective date of the ordinance is going to be 15 days after the mayor signs it. The
Is there-
resolution is October 30th.
Okay, is there a requirement for how long the mayor can wait to sign it till?
She's
I
pretty
mean, we're
quick.
just making this really complicated.
She's
I just want to
pretty
make it,
quick with
all right? So the intent for it to take effect is October 30th. Can I have a friendly amendment?
Councilor Ryan makes a friendly amendment that the effective date of Council Bill 2408-22 is effective October 30th, 2024.
Second.
All right, friendly amendment is accepted by the motion maker? Okay. All right, does that help a little bit? Thank you for clearing it up, thank you. All right, so on.
Council President, do we
yes,
actually, do we need to vote on, I think we need to vote on the amendment, is that correct?
It was a friendly amendment,
Is it?
and it was accepted by the motion maker.
I think you're good.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so we are now, we have a friendly amendment for item number 11 to take effect October 30th. No more questions. Clerk, please take the roll.
Left here. Vice President Zerlinko.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes, and I just thank you guys for being involved and being active. I appreciate it. All right, so moving on to item number 13, we have a briefing and a proposed action item. Council Bill 2409-23, I'll read it into the record. Adopt an ordinance approving the appropriations of the 2024 revised City of Everett budget and amending ordinance number 4022-24. Third and final reading will be 9/25/24. And we have a briefing now. Thank you.
Sorry. Good evening, Council. Tonight, we are presenting the Second Amendment for the 2024 budget. I will present the General Government Fund amendments, and Jamie Lee, our Assistant Finance Director, will present the non-general government amendments. Council President, if acceptable, I was hoping to take questions after we finish the general government amendments, and then again after the non-general
Okay.
funds. Thank you. In total, the budget will be amended by $40.4 million. This includes $2.8 million for general government funds and $37.6 million for the non-general government funds. Most of this amendment is to appropriate funding for CIP 1, CIP 3, and CIP 4 projects in the amount of $30.1 million, all of which have already been approved by council via plans and systems ordinances. As a reminder for our viewers, non-general government funds include special revenues, enterprise, and internal service funds. I want to emphasize that these non-general government funds are prohibited from providing unearned funding to support the general government. We begin general government amendments with the distribution of the vacancy budget offset of $5.3 million. As explained during last week's Council's Budget and Finance Committee meeting, it is the city's practice to fully budget for all approved positions in departmental budgets. Knowing that vacancies will occur throughout the year, we include an offset in non-departmental Fund 009 to account for those vacancy savings. As part of this amendment, the vacancy offset of $5.3 million will then be distributed from non-departmental 009 to the funds where vacancies have occurred. This includes police, human resources, community development, engineering and public services, streets, municipal court, and parks and community services. This follows our strategic long-range financial practice to reduce the operating budget mid-year as a result of those savings. The next amendment will increase general government's self-insurance contributions by $84,000, and this is to cover the cost of property insurance premiums and unemployment compensation. The increases are due primarily to the unpredictability of the insurance marketplace. As an example, the cost of insurance premiums have grown by approximately $1 million each year since 2021. In 2020, the cost was $3.4 million and has risen to $7.3 million in 2024. The non-general government funds contribution will be explained later in this amendment. Next, there is an increase in jail fees by $1.6 million. The original jail fee budget is $4.4 million. We forecast jail fees to come in about $6 million this year. An increase in rates, criminal cases, and changes to state law that allow additional police enforcement are driving those costs upwards. The number of inmates through July are up 25.7% over the same time period in 2023, and housing days are up by 52%. Hill Kamen from the prosecutor's office, as well as Police Chief DeRoos, they're here tonight to provide additional information. So I'm going to turn it over to Hill to start that
Good Good evening. Hill came in the legal department. I'm going to share a couple of the factors that have led to that increase above what we anticipated. There's 3 small factors and 1 major one. This is a bit of the final tail of COVID, where our baseline has increased to sort of pre-COVID levels. And the last 3 years have not been a good metric to look back upon to anticipate this year's number of cases. Additionally, there have been more people held longer in the jail due to medical detox. This is a consequence of the opioid fentanyl epidemic. People are taking 2, 3, 5 days before they are able to come down to court. We've also experienced more declined felonies from the county. These are cases that are technically a felony by state law, but under their charging practices, due to their resources, they are not taking them, and so they then fall to the city to prosecute those cases. But by far the biggest factor that has led to this increase is a change in state law that went into effect last July, making possession of drugs a misdemeanor crime, which was previously prosecuted as a felony. And so we anticipate that we're going to have an increase of about 1,000 cases that we're now prosecuting in Everett that were previously prosecuted by the county as felonies. And so the number of cases that we see have just increased over what we could have anticipated before that law went into effect. I know Chief DeRoos is going to speak to this more, but we're taking all available steps to try and get those people into treatment and other services in diversion, and it remains that we have more people who are in jail on those new charges. Chief DeRoos.
Hi, John DeRoos with the Police Department. What we're entering into is a little bit of a new normal when it comes to our jail activity, not too far off actually from 2019 numbers. What we're seeing this year in 2024 is a lot of responsive patrols to complaints we're getting. You guys see some of these complaints in your emails as well as phone calls that you receive from the community, but we get them directly at the police department, and we have a pretty strong crime analysis unit that lets us know where crime is occurring, and we deploy some of these responsive patrols into those areas. That leads to more arrests. But I will say, to give a little bit of context, that we have pretty specific policy on when people will get booked. They have to be a danger to our community. They have to be not likely to show up for court. And the booking actually solves the concerns to somebody's safety or damage to property or for similar reasons. So our officers don't book everybody they see. They actually have a long list of other things that might occur when officers come into contact with them, but booking is one of those options when it falls within policy. The other things our officers do in pretty high numbers is we give a lot of warnings. We also issue citations. We'll cite people into court at times. We also are doing much better with the advancement of our community development unit of referring people to our social workers. And as an example, I wrote down some numbers today. In August, 51 calls that came in through 911 were diverted to our social workers. And law enforcement, people with badges and guns, as they've been saying over the last few years, we didn't show up to those calls because they were calls that our social workers could handle. If those calls had been calls that would have ended in arrest, that's an avoided booking into jail and a savings overall for our city. 21 calls were referred to our social workers from our night shift unit. These are our August numbers I was just mentioning. So I mentioned warnings, citations, referrals. We also do a lot of lead referrals, law enforcement assisted diversion. And this is when our officers in certain situations come into contact with people that maybe have drug addiction issues and could be booked into jail, but pre-arrest are diverted through lead. We have a great relationship with them, and our numbers are #1 in the county when it comes to referrals. In 2024, we made it one of our points of emphasis in our strategic initiatives, and I'm happy to share with you today that we made 124 lead referrals this year so far, compared to 46 last year, and those numbers blow away some of our other peer cities in this community. So our officers, again, I'm trying to reinforce that we do other things but book people into jail. And then the last thing on my list is COET. We still have a COET unit. They still are dealing with our most dynamic and difficult issues in our community. Sometimes booking is the answer to some of the things that they're faced with, but they also they have a great relationship with our social workers. They are embedded with them at times. They refer people to them to try to deal with some of those very dynamic issues. And yeah, that's what they do. I mentioned at the beginning, and I'll end with this too, unless there's other questions when we're all done, is that these all originate almost 100% with calls we're getting from our community. We don't just wing it. We deploy our resources with a methodology that includes where we're seeing visually through the windshield, seeing problems in our community, what we're hearing from our community members, and what our statistics are telling us. So that's a very short synopsis to a much more dynamic and bigger issue, but I wanted to share that piece with you. Thank you.
Heidi? Well, Heidi requested to have questions at the very end.
I won't go anywhere, I promise.
Heidi, do you want to finish? That was the intent, or did you want to change your mind? Let's just finish up and then we'll have questions.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
That's how you started.
I know, I gotta keep going. All right, the last amendment on the slide is to increase staffing resources in a few critical areas, most of which are supported by program revenues, grants, and other external funding. First, the Mayor's Drug Crisis Task Force recommendations highlighted and identified the need for expanding treatment, recovery, and services. Additionally, they emphasized the need to strengthen the tools and resource for crisis response, education and prevention, and the importance of ongoing advocacy and policy efforts, to fund and support these initiatives. These goals directly align with the state's opioid response plan and the One Washington Memorandum of Understanding. As part of the city's efforts, community development, the last one, workforce adjustments. I'm just giving a little background to the first one, sorry. As part of its efforts, the Community Development Department intends to utilize a program manager to manage and oversee the city's use of the opioid settlement funds and implement the Drug Crisis Task Force recommendation. This position will be funded by opioid settlement funds and will ensure compliance with the requirements set forth for municipalities that are receiving these funds. As a result of the finance director's retirement, finance reorganized to better meet the needs of the department. This included adding an assistant finance director, to the left, Jamie Lee Graves, to offer additional support to all divisions of finance, which have experienced an increase to their workload, also to provide citywide procurement support. The Finance Department's Business and Occupation Tax Division has generated over $800,000 in B&O tax this year through their detection work. And I explained this during the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. Last year, over 1,200 new businesses had registered with the Department of Revenue, but didn't register with the city. And so with our current staffing levels, we've been able to audit 250 of those 1,200 businesses each year. But by adding an additional financial analyst to the division, this will aid in the detection work. And the goal is really to increase ongoing licensing and B&O revenues going forward once those businesses have registered with the city. The labor changes here also include the former finance director's retirement payout. There are 2 additional positions that will be added to the automated traffic safety camera program. The first is a project coordinator, and this individual will be tasked with developing early adoption strategies to improve safety within our transportation system. The position will also assist the city traffic engineer in administering this program. The second position is a traffic technician who will be responsible for assembling field data for prospective safety improvements, including engineering studies and other data collection efforts. The position will also be responsible for writing the work orders for those early adoption strategies to improve transportation safety in our public right-of-way. And lastly, for this one, Parks and Community Services is adding a community outreach coordinator to aid in the planting of 7,000 trees. It's set to begin in the fall of this year. Labor costs are fully supported by the Federal Inflation Reduction Act Urban and Community Forestry Program through 2028. Right. In May 2023, City Council approved a professional services contract with Bridgeview Consulting for the Hazard Mitigation Plan update, and this was $65,000. In July 2024, the city received an emergency management performance grant from the Washington State Military Department in the amount of $17,579. And this will be used to purchase a digital fire suppression system for CERT training. So this amendment will increase emergency management's budget for that professional services contract and the digital fire suppression system purchase, and that totals $82,579, with this to be completed in 2024. The next amendment increases engineering and public services budget by $124,677. And this amount is offset by increased revenue from insurance claims. There were several incidents that caused damage to the city's infrastructure, resulting in revenue through insurance claim recoveries. And that will then be used for supplies and equipment expenses to replace and repair those traffic signals. The Public Works Department was awarded 2 grants, one of which we've mentioned in this meeting. That is the Puget Sound Regional Council for the City of Everett Safe Streets and Roads for All Safety Action Plan, and this is $788,363. The second grant is from the Washington State Department of Transportation's Highway Safety Improvement Program for the citywide systemic pedestrian and bicyclist data collection, and that was for $139,000. Projects will begin in the 4th quarter of this year and will be completed by the end of next year. So the amount that you're seeing here only is for the 2024 expenditures. The police department has received 3 grants, a body-worn camera grant, boating safety, and an officer wellness grant. And so the next 3 amendments will provide the formal spending authority for those grants. $27,513 from the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs body-worn camera grant program. This grant will be used to purchase sidearm devices for weapon holsters. This would allow for the automatic start of the officer's body-worn camera when their weapon is drawn. An additional $5,000 from Washington State Parks and Recreation Commission's Federal Boating Safety Program will fund overtime cost that's associated with basic marine law enforcement trainings. A $55,000 grant from the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission will be used to purchase equipment to enhance both the North and South Police Precincts fitness areas in support of additional health and wellness options for staff. And City Council did approve this grant on August 21st. The police department sent employees to the American Society of Evidence-Based Policing Conference that was held in Spokane in May of this year. The conference was attended as part of the city's ongoing commitment to reduce violent crime in the community. The conference provided best practices from nationally renowned presenters who have firsthand knowledge of crime reduction strategies. There was specifically a focus on the use of emerging technology to assist law enforcement in addressing violent crime through the use of and leveraging technology. The conference is funded by council COVID allocations, and that totals $4,424. The city was awarded $488,600 from the Washington State Office of Public Defense. Half of that grant will be expended in 2024 and the other half in 25. This grant will be used to offset the budgeted indigent defense grants, which is why you don't see an amount there. And the last general government amendment will increase municipal arts budget by $64,540. Municipal arts received additional revenues from lodging tax grants, sponsorship solicitations, and a grant from the Local Initiative Support Corporation, or LISC. Funds will be used to support ongoing events and cultural art programs to ensure that they're completed and delivered by the end of this year. All right. I'd like to open up to council comments and questions for general government amendments.
thank you. I would really, that's such a good amount of information that I'm totally impressed with, and I am not a person that can write really fast, and so I feel like I'm gonna have to go back and like basically make a transcript of what you've said, but I would rather have all of the information before we sit down and listen, so that it's easier to ask questions about it, because, well, there's just not enough information on this, and, but you have the information. So, that is a comment, I guess, and a please, pretty please. I don't know if we've gotten stuff before. Because this looks like something regular, yes.
Attached to the ordinance, there's two supporting documents. One is what we call a tally, and it has a narrative for each of the amendments.
Maybe I just missed that,
Okay.
obviously. Well, that is good. I was sick last week. Okay, so that's good. Are the supporting documents from legal and our police chief in there as well for the jail fees?
Oh, no, that was just prepared and presented tonight.
So can Hill and Chief DeRoos and step up again and tell me that you'll get me the information in writing? So I don't have to create a transcript?
What additional information?
Well, about the 51 calls diverted to social services, 21 calls, the August stuff, the lead referrals. Is that all? Where is that? Is this the one time that I didn't look in
No,
the
no, ma'am.
deep weeds?
No, I have them in my notes here. I'm happy to send you. The information I got on the social workers was from Kelly Rourke, the person that manages the social worker program and outreach worker program. And then I got from Ashley Dawson, who manages LEAD, I had her send me the data related to the number of lead referrals. Happy to forward that information to you.
That would be so good.
Yeah.
Good. I got the 25% and the 52%, but I wasn't able to write down what it was for at the very beginning. So anyways, I think I'll let other people ask questions because I'm so terribly uneducated at this time about what I need to be asking questions about. It sounded good. It sounded reasonable. It sounded, the change in state law, previous
Yeah.
prosecuted as felonies, we're in the thousands that we have to do that. It's the new normal, I'm getting all this. It sounds legitimate. It also sounds like you're doing a good job. I always have a problem with the crimes that we have on the books and that we're putting people in for. So, but that's not what this is about. I was like frantically writing all of these things, and I need it so that I can process it visually.
Chief, it would be great if you could just provide a set of bullet points from the prosecutor's office, and be great. Thank you.
We'll get together.
Yeah,
We'll
appreciate
get together and talk about it.
Yeah, and we
send
still
you
have 2
something.
more weeks to
Yeah.
approve this, so thank you.
And I'll be more fluent, maybe.
There's a lot of information. Councilmember Fossey.
First off, thank you so much for the presentation, and kudos to all the grants and like all of that, getting those dollars. Well done, you guys. That is amazing work. Love to hear that. With regards, I have a few just clarifying, and it's not because I disapprove of the things, I just trying to clarify a few things. The emergency management operations, you were talking about didn't that used to fall under the purview of the existing firefighters that we have, or?
Yeah, last year, we removed the Emergency Operations Center Division from fire, and the department was created, and we had to do that through, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if it was resolution or ordinance, but I know that there was something authorizing the creation of that department.
And it has its own budget line item now.
Okay. And then, I know we had previously done, gosh, I think it was not this last May, but the May before, the council had passed a local ordinance regulating drug possession and use. Did that have any impacts, or was that completely rendered null and void by state legislation the following month?
I believe that was us adopting the state ordinances into local code so that we could prosecute them.
That's not correct. They did a special session after, and I believe it was passed maybe like May, not of this year, but the year before. And then the special session came after that. I remember that one very clearly, but I never quite got the information about the thing that was pushed through council, if it actually had any impact or if it was completely, didn't matter anymore because of the state law.
Yeah, if there was something passed prior to the July 1, 2023 effective new laws, the possession of controlled substance and use of controlled substance in public, those prior laws are no longer enforced. So since the state passed the laws that went into effect last July and we adopted those in Everett, that's what we have been prosecuting under. I know there were a number of iterations since the Blake decision, which removed the felony drug possession laws. Since then, there was a state law that was different than the current one that was in effect, but it didn't impact our Everett code because we already had an intent requirement. So I don't think that's reflected in these budget numbers. In looking at where the increase went up, it was in response to that most recent amendment from the state legislature, or most recent law making possession and use in public a misdemeanor.
Side note, I would really like an update sometime. Maybe we could have a meeting where you can outline the differences between the policy we passed and the state law, if there was anything that was still in play based on, just for my curiosity going through that process. I'd be very interested to know if there was anything that resulted of that policy that actually stuck longer than a month.
Sure.
We also had passed something regarding mandatory minimums, enhanced sentencing. Thank you. Is there any data on that? Has that gone into play yet?
That is in play, and I believe the ordinance has us coming back annually to report on that. We're about 6 months into that, and there have been, I don't have the exact numbers, but between 50 and 60 people who have been charged with that, not necessarily convicted, which would then trigger the mandatory time. And at this point, it's too early to know what impact that is having compared to our total numbers. It's a small number of individuals.
When you give us the update at a year, I would be really interested in kind of having a vague financial impact of what that looks like. And I understand if that has to be a range because there's if and ors. But that would be really, really helpful, I think, for us to look at, because I know that's can be an expensive approach. For the workforce adjustments, would somebody be able to sit down with me and kind of talk about those departments and what that looks like? I don't want to do it right now, but maybe a meeting where you guys can map it out visually for me so I can kind of digest that a little bit better.
Actually, if I may, you went through a pass. Could you just like label the 4 positions, I believe? Can you just give us a title, if that's okay? If you, just like a little more synopsis than a sit down, just could you kind of replay that
Yes, I can
real quickly,
go through the
like
list.
bullet point?
Program Manager in Community Development, funded by opioid settlement funds. We have an Assistant Finance Director. Financial Analyst in the Clerk's Office, that'll be funded by those revenue tax compliance collections. We also have the Finance Director retirement payout embedded in there. A project coordinator funded by automated traffic safety camera program revenues. A traffic technician funded by the same revenue source. A community outreach coordinator funded by a federal grant for the 7,000 tree planting.
What was the
Thank you.
finance director payout?
It's like 55, 56,000.
No, I mean, what is it?
Oh, it's Susie Haugen's retirement payout. It wasn't
Oh,
budgeted
okay,
in the
okay.
original budget.
Her accrued benefits.
That's, okay, that's what I was trying to get at. Thank you.
Yeah. So I didn't, sorry to jump in there, but I wanted to hear that too. Go ahead and continue.
I think if there was just, that is all of the information I have at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Ryan, do you have any questions?
Do I?
Okay.
So, I guess since we're just talking about the workforce development, I believe, at least myself, have been asking for a while about what our opioid settlement spending plan is. So I'm surprised to hear that there's a position funded out of that without some sort of an overall plan. I think we had talked about some of the money going towards the mobile outreach program, but then that got supplanted with the state grant, which is fantastic. But the last I had heard, there wasn't a plan. So this, to me, sounds like there is a plan. So I would like to have that conversation on the table at some point, please. So if the original budget for the jail is 4.4 million, what was the budget amendment number one's increase in jail fees?
Budget amendment number 1 didn't have an amendment for jail fees.
Okay. So I guess I'm worried about next year's budget, that if this is the adjustment we're making now, and then we're gonna have to calculate that into next year's budget, then, you know, that's a lot of additional money that's gonna have to be moved around to accommodate for that. So I know you don't have an answer for that right now, but just as a out loud mention for that. Hill, thank you for the mention about the enhanced sentencing, that it is about 50 to 60 people. That's definitely a higher number than I think we were told, so that was a surprise. Hill, so if the county can pass down their felony charges to us to charge misdemeanors, is there anything we can pass back to them to offset our costs?
We are the end of the line in terms of cases that get passed to us. Over the years, we have been forced to make decisions about what cases we prosecute. So, you know, we have decided, you know, when we get more serious felonies, that we've had to then not prosecute other misdemeanor cases, you know, so that we are sort of within the resources that we have.
Okay, thank you. Chief, I'm glad to hear that we're number one in the county for our lead diversions. I think that's fantastic. I think maybe a more correct matrix might be more of the percentage of interactions or potential arrests that were diverted instead of just numbers, since our volume's obviously way higher than the other local jurisdictions.
You bet, I can look at that. It's gonna be a very small percentage because there's just so many nuances that come into play when somebody's suffering from addiction issues. They have to be the right fit. They can't be dangerous to the lead counselors. Certain crimes eliminate them from even being impossible. Sometimes people aren't a fit today, but they are tomorrow. So lots of factors there. I mean, if you want me to find some overall numbers and give you percentages, but I can tell you now, it's not gonna be super telling to you and it's gonna look very small. So one of the reasons we added the number of lead referrals conducted in some of these responsive patrols that we've been doing is because I know our officers see that when they fill out the end of shift, we call them a rolling recap, they have to put in their 0 if they make none. And a lot of times what I'm seeing our officers do, because in the spirit of it, if it gets measured, it gets done, is talk about why people couldn't get referred to lead. And that's been, I think, a big part of, other than us asking, a big part of why we're seeing more referrals. So it's a long way of saying I can give you that number, but it's just not going to be that large. The sad truth is people that are suffering, just like when people that are suffering from mental health challenges, it's all about timing, and sometimes things have to line up to make it happen.
Yeah.
But sometimes a metric of one, that one person we get into services makes all the difference.
Yeah, no need to do extra homework. I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah, I think I'm glad to hear that about the reasons why folks weren't diverted, because I think that can help identify barriers that can be addressed over time. So thank you for that. Heidi, in your prior role, what was your title? I thought you were our assistant finance director.
Budget manager.
So is there a new budget manager?
Yes, that was our former senior financial analyst.
Okay, so a new assistant finance director position was created. Okay.
In the new salary ordinance? Sorry, everybody should hear that. Is that gonna be in the new salary ordinance? And I stopped.
I think that's all I have for today. Appreciate
Yes.
the presentation. Thank you.
Councilmember Ryan, I just wanted to add on the, aware of your ask for the opioid settlement funds plan. That program manager position, part of that role will be to develop that bigger plan. There's millions of dollars in the long run that would come to the city. And I think that it was mentioned when we had the Mayor's Drug Crisis Task Force briefing at the Health and Human Services Committee in August, but I didn't quite have time to review that, but my notes say that it was. But know that I know that there is a need for that, and the community development team knows that too, so.
Thank you. Councilmember Bader.
Oh, sorry, nothing.
Nothing? And just my encouragement to council is that let's put together a list of questions and get them to Jennifer as soon as we can. So maybe we can get, some more briefing on some of the inquiries that we have. And Councilmember Fossey has a question.
This is probably a no. So there was a comment saying, is there anything we could throw to the county? But is when they are throwing additional caseloads down to us, is there any agreement that we have in taking on that financial responsibility that they are helping with any financial dollars in that arena? And then I have a second part.
I mean, I think I guess, I don't know if I would say it's a policy decision per se, but the county prosecutor, I think when they've made that decision has been a policy decision of their office. And it's usually tied to their financial constraints, and it's not like they're outsourcing it to us. It's a choice that we're making.
Yeah, they don't ask for our agreement.
Right.
That we will prosecute their cases for them. They simply exercise their prosecutorial discretion not to charge certain cases. And then we have the ability to pick those up and charge them if we wish. And we're in the position of having to decide whether to let crimes that would be felonies go uncharged, which obviously we're not going to do. So we charge them at the highest misdemeanor or gross misdemeanor level that we can, and then typically have to drop cases off at the bottom end that we can no longer prosecute it. But it's not something they ask our agreement for, nor do they compensate us.
I think if they have additional resources, they would put it back into their prosecution so that they can adjust those levels and prosecute those cases.
So they're not asking us to prosecute these cases. They are simply not pursuing them, and then our prosecutors pick them up and decide to prosecute them.
Correct. And if that doesn't sound fair to you, it's never sounded fair to us.
Their current standards for theft, for example, is $1,500 and above for a felony. And then below that, they send to us to prosecute as misdemeanors. I believe state law is $750. So, they've set the benchmark there. And then, so we get all those cases up to $1,500.
Is the increase primary for like theft? Is the increase in the kick down cases, I guess, that we're picking up primarily in the theft arena of that, between that $750 and $1,500?
I think that is one area, but we see it in a number of different areas.
Can I get a breakdown of that? I'm really just curious. It would just be
Yeah.
helpful for me to kind of understand, because as David Hall had mentioned, maybe it's just a little bug about fairness, but to know kind of what we're looking at that we're picking up in that arena. And this is fine for a side conversation that you can have with me, where we can have a separate meeting where you're like, hey, this is the numbers we're looking at, XYZ. We don't have to do any of that stuff right now.
And it's probably, I will just warn you, going to get a little bit worse if the county council doesn't approve more funding for their prosecutors. I've been told by the prosecutor.
Great.
Can I just add another little piece here? I think a few things. Prosecutor Jason Cummings has worked with us really well.
Yeah.
This is not him just saying,
Oh.
we're tired of prosecuting these cases.
I know,
This is
yeah.
a very understaffed prosecutor's office with a lot of volume of cases that are coming in. And we understand that there's a long list, and the list would come from them, not from us. They decide, right? So it would be somebody on his staff that would have to provide a list of what, in general, they're not prosecuting. But what's important to note here, because he works so well with us, is we have some of these cases with these repeat offenders that might fall in as a felony, but they do not prosecute, that we can work directly with. Hey, this is the third or fourth time we've caught this person in a stolen car or some other similar type crime, and they'll work with us and say, okay, we'll prosecute that case. But simply because of the numbers, there's going to probably be more if they don't get the staffing and the support that they need over there, cases being either referred down to us. And the really dangerous part for us, because we think some people need to be held accountable, is when they hold on to those cases for a while, they fall off from the felony level. Now we're up against time, right? And Hill can talk more about what the impact of that, or David can, but that's the other challenge. There's a lot of nuances to all of this.
Yes.
As we try to navigate through it and figure out what's the best way to do our jobs, hold the right people accountable that need to be held accountable, refer the best people to services that we can, and still navigate through all these waters and balance a budget.
It's interesting for us, though, also to know kind of how some of these decisions are made with staffing can then go to actually impacting municipalities and their budgets. So that's kind of where my line of thinking is when we're doing any of those advocacy efforts. If there's something where we're kind of seeing a pattern, despite our wonderful relationship and working with the prosecutor's office, if there are things that are impacting them that are trickling down and impacting us, it's good to know, especially for council. So that's where my line of questioning is coming from, not accusing the prosecutor's office of doing anything, shame on you, Everett, or anything like that. It's more of trying to see how those actions and what's happening with staffing is like translating into impacts with us and what our tax dollars are going to. So would love to see those numbers and chat a little bit more about that so I can get a better picture of kind of what that looks like. Last question, when the laws changing things specifically to a gross misdemeanor happened, were there any dollars put in place knowing the impact it would have on municipal governments?
There were dollars made available for some therapeutic interventions. I know we've taken advantage of those to fund our therapeutic services court, which is a specialty court focused on substance use offenders. And then the indigent defense grant, that funding is specifically for increased public defense costs for only those crimes, so the drug possession and drug use crimes. There's been no additional funding for the police prosecution or jailing of people under those state law changes.
Again, I just want to give kudos to the grant efforts of the city's team and all the work that I know that's a real struggle for when we have tight staffing to be able to, and a lot of cities just can't, but to be able to put efforts there, it really seems like we're having some results with that. So again, just kudos and thanks for the presentation, and maybe we have more. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Fossey. Councilmember Ryan.
Speaking of the county, Good news, everybody. Oh, actually, really bad news. So County Executive Summers gave his budget address last Wednesday, and the county is facing the same budget constraints that we are with the 1% growth. The budget, as far as my understanding, there aren't really any new positions added at the county level, but the budget is now in the hands of the county council for deliberation and review and whatnot. So I would provide unsolicited advice to our 2 members for our Regional Law and Justice Commission at next Wednesday's meeting, when there's an agenda topic about budgets at the state and the county level, to share this information with the county council members that are present, to let them know about how the budget decisions at the county and the prosecutor's office trickles down to impact us as a city and other cities in the county as well. So I think that's a great time to share this information to make sure that it's in the right hands at the right time. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Why don't we move to our presentation on non-general government proposed amendments?
Good evening, Council. The non-general government proposed amendments are next. First, the CIP3 expenditure budget will increase by $946,500 for the following 6 park projects with plans and systems funding ordinances previously approved by Council. The Walter E. Hall Community Amenities Project for $31,500, Walter E. Hall Access Trail for $225,000, the Jackson Park Lighting Improvement Project for $150,000. Then we have the T.A. Sullivan Dock Repairs for $40,000, the T.A. Sullivan Disc Golf Project for $150,000, and lastly, the Clark Park Off-Leash Dog Area Project for $350,000. Next is the CIP expenditure budget, which will increase by $28,651,397 for the following projects previously approved by Council. We have the HVAC upgrades for the Police South Precinct for $97,000, the HVAC renovation to the main library branch for $360,000, and the Everett Municipal Building Tenant Improvement Project in the amount of $28.2 million. The CIP4 expenditure budget will increase by $513,752 to fund the Eclipse Mill Park and Riverfront Trail Improvement Project, again previously council approved. This will provide additional funding for design, bid services, and construction support. The next amendment increases non-general government funds' self-insurance contributions by $311,130 to cover the cost of property insurance premiums and unemployment compensation. As Heidi mentioned previously, the general government's portion is $84,293. The total amount that will be transferred to the self-insurance fund is $395,423. The reason for the $706,553 that you're seeing is because this amendment is also increasing the M&O budget for each department that is contributing. As part of general government amendments, Heidi explained the proposal to hire a program manager in community development to oversee the city's use of opioid settlement funds and implement the Drug Crisis Task Force recommendations. Additionally, a project coordinator and traffic technician will be added in engineering and public services to adopt and implement strategies to improve traffic safety as part of the city's automated traffic safety camera program. This amendment will authorize transfers from the opioid settlement fund and automated traffic safety camera program in the amount of $121,831 to support labor costs. The next amendment will increase Golf's expenditure budget by $60,000 to replace a sprayer and gator for Legion Golf Course that has surpassed its useful life. This will be used to apply pesticide and fertilizer on the golf course. Oh, I should just go. Sorry, is that gator?
Oh, yes, I had to look it up because I was really, it's a John Deere Gator is this like tractor that has like a empty bed and they put this like tank for pesticides. Yeah, I was also curious what that was. I was like ready for that. Okay, so.
When it gets surplus, can you let me know so I can get?
Yeah, right.
Have they given it a nickname yet?
No, I kind of like Gator. It just.
I think its nickname should be Allie.
Oh, okay.
That's a dad joke. All right.
Sorry. Okay.
Yes, we're at Library Reserve. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. The next amendment increases expenditure authority in the Library Reserve Fund by $6,625. $6,000 will be used for improvements to the Northwest Room, and the remaining $625 will be used for book purchases that are supported by private contributions. The city received $250,000 from the Washington State Auto Theft Prevention Authority. Grant funds will be used to acquire automated license plate recognition cameras to address motor vehicle thefts. This program falls in line with the police department's initiative to leverage innovative technologies to reduce violent crime and improve community safety. The next amendment will increase appropriations from the COVID Relief Fund in the amount of $1,740,709. $1,140,709 is appropriated for 2024 budget replacement as approved in ordinance number 3983-23. This includes $200,000 for Claire's Place supportive housing, $556,800 for human needs grants, $300,000 to pay for the Volunteers of America management contract of the Carl Gibson Community Center, $69,120 for Bezos Academy rent support, and $14,789 for annual dues paid to the Alliance for Housing Affordability. Additionally, $600,000 is appropriated for the establishment of a standalone City Chamber of Commerce as approved in Resolution Number 8061. Okay. So this next amendment increases transfers out of the Development and Construction Permit Fund 130 in the amount of $848,360 to reimburse the general government for construction development support. And then the last non-general government amendment moves $3,773,318 of cash reserves from the HMA Legacy PPO Medical Plan to the HMA CDH Plan. When the CDH plan was first created, no reserves were allocated for the employees who migrated from the HMA Legacy PPO plan to give the new plan a chance to stabilize. The reserves were originally accumulated in the HMA Legacy PPO plan for the employees who migrated. The plan has now been in place for a sufficient time to make this reallocation. So that concludes our briefing on the budget amendment, and we'd now like to open it up for questions.
Questions? Councilmember Vogely.
I would like to take this time to apologize. I found the tally sheet, and I am looking at it, and it's all written down. I still want stuff from Chief, but I've officially apologized. And thank you for all of that information. That's all for now. Yeah, just apologies.
Okay, we are on the non-governmental, non-general government proposals. Councilmember Fosse.
You were talking about workforce adjustments, traffic, but I thought when we were talking about the other workforce, you had mentioned the traffic camera position over there and the technician and whatnot.
The automated traffic safety camera program revenues reside in the Criminal Justice Fund 156. So we're basically transferring resources from that sub-fund into the general fund to support that labor cost.
Okay, so the 121,000 is going over to pay for the 415?
Yeah, and similar to automated traffic safety camera, in Fund 155 is where the opioid settlement funds are housed. So between those two, 121,000 will be transferred to the general government for labor support.
All right. You had mentioned the M&O budget increasing. What was that under? Because it was when you were talking it was slide 6, page 6.
Is it the self-insurance reserve?
Is that where you were talking about the M&O budget increasing? You were going kind of fast through it, so I just scribbled it down.
The increase itself, so I was saying that, sorry. The, oh wait, oh no, it's okay. The, so Fund 508 is receiving the 395,423, but, 503, sorry, Fund 503, but the 706,000 is there because we have to increase the budget in the funds that are contributing, so that encompasses golf, transit, utilities, all contributing to that fund.
Okay. This is a fun game. The property insurance premium increases, where are we seeing that the most?
I'll have to get back to you on that one to get you a breakout of the various insurance premiums. I just don't want to.
I think I can share that. The two main categories are our property and our workers' compensation.
Yes, what property?
All the city's assets.
Yes, where are we seeing that the most? Like, is it because of the Everett Municipal Building, like, being upgraded? Is it
No,
because of,
it's
like?
because of the insurance marketplace has been driven largely by more
I understand.
more natural disasters, and it's not specific to property, it's our
Okay.
our entire.
So there's nothing specifically, like, we don't have a particular building or particular property that is, they deem more?
No.
No. Even with any of the upgrades or anything like that, they look at it
But
exclusively?
we adjust the property valuation periodically, and so upgrades would add to the valuation, but that's not what is the significant driver of the increased costs. Increased costs are being just driven by the marketplace,
Okay.
which is getting worse every year by a pretty significant amount.
Yeah, I keep hearing that. I was just wondering if we had any particular properties that might have been more, I don't know, less desirable to keep around because of increased costs specifically associated with them.
And Councilmember Fossey, I think what you were talking about for the expenditure budget was when we referenced CIP1, the expenditure budget is increasing by over 28 million, and that's for pre-approved council CIP1 projects, no?
No.
Okay.
No, that wasn't it. Okay. What would happen if we did not get a new gator?
We wouldn't be able to spray the fertilizer and probably wouldn't be able to spray the fertilizer and the pesticides. Apparently, the existing one is beyond repair, so it was cheaper to buy a new one.
Where does the golf fund dollars come from?
So the golf is an enterprise fund. Thanks for that question. And so, if you will, run like a private business. So all revenue generated needs to recover the costs, and golf does that and more. And so to be able to continue to provide the level of service and generate the revenue, these kinds of equipment purchases are important for the golf fund.
I understand that. I was just curious about how that particular golf fund works. So it's self-sustaining in its own right, including everything with insurance and all of that factored in?
Yes, golf pays for its portion of the insurance cost, and that's all recouped through the golf fees.
Great. When we have our meeting, I have a couple additional questions that aren't relevant here, but I'd love to ask you about that.
Okay, thank you. So the golf is self-funded, correct?
Correct.
Yep. Okay, thanks. And
They also, like other enterprise funds, reimburse other internal services. For example, when the legal department does work on golf issues, we record that separately and are reimbursed from that enterprise fund.
Just a summary question. A lot of these amendments are transferring non-governmental dollars into the general operating budget, correct?
Well, most of the non-general government would stay in non-general government. The CIP ones are, that's about 30.1 million of the amendment.
Right.
So that's just increasing expenditure authority for the projects that have already been approved.
Already approved, okay, thank you. Okay, any more questions? And I would encourage staff to write emails and make, try to filter them through Jennifer, and let's, you know, I'm sure there's more, as we get more information, you guys are looking through the documentation, so thank you for the briefing, and with no further business, meeting will be adjourned.